So have been self-learning Procreate for about a year and a couple months, and sometimes I haven't played around with it in a while, so I wanted to create a thumbnail for a video that I just created, and I said maybe I could kind of talk through my process. But as I was doing it and talking through the process, I don't think that I was explaining it kind of at the speed at which I move, because when I move things around, I'm not necessarily thinking about why I'm doing it or what I'm doing. I'm just kind of going with the flow of the process, and a lot of things get changed. I actually sped this up 300% because it was slow moving. This whole video was 15 minutes, but I decided I was going to do a voiceover overlay and kind of just talk about what you're seeing here. And I'm kind of demonstrating the way in which you can layer these composite images onto each other. I think I have like 4 or 5 layers, and I'm layering that. Now I'm zooming in, and I see that my eyes were closed here. This is actually a screenshot from some stills, or actually not from some stills, from some videos that I was doing. And the video was an audition, and I had to do an interpretive dance. All that to say, it was some weird, interesting body posturing, and I said, you know what, maybe I could do something fun with that, create something different and unique for a thumbnail and still be able to retain some of my skills and not forget how I got there. Here I was trying to put some eyeballs in to see how they might work, because a lot of times when you zoom in and you zoom out, it's so small, sometimes it looks real. And again, a lot of this is me just trying out different techniques and seeing what works. And the technique that I'm also trying out is being able to use the iPad as an image source within ECamm Live, so that I'm talking and narrating, then I have a separate window that's showing what's on my iPad. I've never done this before with the iPad, and because my desktop is older and I have a newer operating system on this laptop, which I rarely use. But anyways, this was a thumbnail that I was using for this video, which is kind of a visual poem that I did regarding to commemorate my 1 year of finishing a 1-year workshop called A Year to Live, a Buddhist workshop, kind of examining your own death. And so I wanted something that was interesting. What I really found most interesting was that I ditched the eyeballs, as you can see, and then I said, you know, let me create a bandana around my eyes. And then originally the concept was bird watching, but bird watching with a blindfold. And then as I kind of kept going with it, I decided that said, you know what, maybe that is kind of these representations of death and being so close to it, but then the way in which we blindfold ourselves to the inevitable reality of death, kind of as a coping strategy for the uncertainty of it. And then that is something that bleeds off into the uncertainty of life. I know this has nothing to do with it. That's why I don't necessarily think this is an instructional video of how to, but for me, again, I like to see how things are layered. I don't necessarily need to see a play-by-play. What I also learned in this was I wasn't really paying attention to where my head was, and I kept going behind the screen. And if you're going to have your head there, you might as well have it unobscured, so I probably needed to adjust that. I probably hadn't made my bed that morning, to be honest with you. And again, it wasn't even something that I was going to post. It was just a little practice, a little tech run, and see how it works. And I said, you know what, this is an interesting piece for my own personal archive. So I kind of use YouTube for my personal archives rather than cloud-based services, or I used to do the external drives, and boy, did I lose a lot of stuff. Right here in this part is I really love to put the gradient maps on and see the different ways that the image changes and the way in which you can reimagine what you just put together. It also creates different textures within the layers and the composition. And of course, I put some blurs in there in the background to create depth. And then I was like, oh, my hair is actually not that dark. So I think this is where I started going. And let's be honest, you can go in for hours. You can go in for hours. I could spend at least 2 hours on just one little graphic, but I wanted to show you a little bit of that. And here's the final product.